Now, the Institute of Risk Management South Africa says it has been watching the growing anguish, relentless looting taking place in two of the provinces here in South Africa, KwaZulu Natal and Gauteng. IRMSA says there have always been fears of social unrest and a possible increase in crime due to unemployment, loss of income and poverty brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. It says a quicker government response and strong leadership are what is needed to bring the current situation under control. Well, joining us now is Thabile Nyaba, who is the president of the Institute of Risk Management of South Africa. So lovely to have you, Thabile. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Leanne, and great rising to you and the viewers.
Now, observing the government's response, what have you identified as a risk management strategy applied by government in this crisis? I mean, when we look at the president's address that happened on Monday, as well as the Justice Cluster's press briefing that happened yesterday.
Thank you, Leanne. So as you correctly said, we as IRMSA have been identifying this risk. We actually started in 2021, actually in 2020, when we highlighted two of the potential risks, which is the social unrest and the increase in crime. And one of the things that we mentioned was that if indeed this is left untreated or unattended, there will be potential for riots, looting, damage to property, harm to people, and the high rate of infection. So it is highly disappointing for us, Leanne, to see this particular risk actually materializing. And also, we're not forgetting the fact that, back at the back of the unemployment and the loss of income, the hunger, the starvation, the desperation, and the food scarcity was going to be the consequences of that. Indeed, we have seen, everybody pulling together, and we appreciate what the government did even initially to use the risk-based strategy to deal with COVID. And we are hoping that the same strategy will be then utilized by the government to actually deal with this, with the crisis that we have in hand. Because what happens, Leanne, is that any risk or any decision that we take, whether as a country or whether as organizations, they have some consequences. We could make a political decision, but the political decision could have a social impact, could have economic impact. And what we're witnessing now is the impact even from the insurance risk perspective.
Yeah. So let me just sort of, again, perhaps just get your views on the president. When he addressed us, was enough said? Do you think law enforcement agencies are doing enough to help the situation, or do they need to up the ante slightly? Or a lot, as many would say.
Yeah, so my view, and I'm talking as a typical risk practitioner, Leanne, is that I would assume that a proper risk assessment was done to identify all this potential risk and what could actually happen, which is what we are seeing now. So I would, as a risk practitioner, I would say then we need to really the government needs to do thorough analysis of what is currently happening and get really down to the root cause of these riots that are deeper than what we might just be seeing right now, the real problem. And then we have to look at the effective measures. I want to believe that they have implemented some of the strategies, be it the president engaging with the people, trying to calm the people down, deploying the police to try and calm the situation down, and even now, deploying the soldiers on the army, to calm the situation down. But as it stands right now, it has not maybe given that much impact. It's not really taking down, if I can call it that way, taking the risk really down. So it is really the time now to look at the effective strategies to deal with this, and the solution from what I'm seeing, or maybe as a typical risk practitioner, the solution might not be far away from the source of the problem. So they need to do an even thorough and a deeper risk analysis and the root cause analysis of why are we actually facing the situation that we are facing right now.
Yeah, I'm just going to just talk to our viewers through some of the visuals that we're seeing in the corner of our screens at the moment. And, Thabile, this is a story that just constantly is carrying on. But this is now Vosloorus Mall. And this is, I beg your pardon, the Chris Hani Mall in Vosloorus, which is now currently on fire and it's being gutted. These are live camera visuals that we've got there. And we'll be crossing to Griselda Lewis for more details on this. But this is our cameraman inside of that mall, and as you can see, the smoke, and there's nothing.
Oh, my
Thabile, as
goodness.
we look on and we look at all of this right now, and yes, right up front at the beginning of the interview, you did mention that the issues behind this unemployment, they don't have jobs. The biggest problem is the youth of this country as well. They have what feels like no purpose, because when you have a job and you wake up in the morning and you're going somewhere, you have a purpose, you're earning an income, you can start your life. But when you're sitting around with absolutely nowhere to go and no prospect of finding a job, things start bubbling, and we've seen this happen in many other countries around the world. As yourself, you're saying that this was always a risk that was going to happen, and it needed a trigger. And one would look at it, and as you say, the risk assessment is being done as to whether this has actually got anything to do or was started by the whole Free Jacob Zuma movement, or there is a much bigger cause at play right now. What are you sensing?
So my view, Leanne, as I've mentioned, it really is that when we did this analysis, even in 2020, we understood that some of the unintended consequences of the lockdown was unemployment and poverty, and indeed food scarcity. What we did at that point in time, we actually partnered with Food Forward as an example, because we realized that that is where most of the issues are actually going to be coming from. And as IRMSA, then we partnered with Food Forward, we pulled in a lot of other members and the organizations, and we were able to raise 81 million rands as IRMSA, in this campaign that we did. But that is never enough, Leanne. I believe for me, the issue of unemployment it needs all hands to be on the deck. It cannot be a government issue. It cannot even be organizational issues. It could even be individuals, if I can call it that way. We are seeing lots of the small businesses, they're shutting down. And my heart goes out to them, because they're one of the biggest absorbers of unemployment in the country, but they're unable to survive right now. So with that, and we're seeing things like the fuel prices going up, the cost of living going up, it is bound to actually create what is currently creating now, which is why then our view and our plea is that maybe we should really, really dig deeper on what the issues are. We believe it's issue of unemployment, it's issue of the economy, it's the issue of poverty, and we definitely need to come up with the strategies, especially on the youth. Personally, I am very passionate about the youth. Let us have the employment strategies for the youth, or maybe assist them to develop certain skills that will be able and enable them to take care of themselves and give them hope as well, because truly speaking, they are the hope of the future. We are the guys that are going to be handing over the baton too. But as it stands right now, their hands are a bit tied. So as corporates, let's reach out and see what we can do to assist the youth. As government, let's reach out and see how we can assist the youth. And I want to believe that those initiatives have already been identified. It's a matter of taking them off the shelf, and making sure that we actually implement them.
Yeah,
I believe that these things have been discussed about, and there won't be anything new. It's a matter of implementing some of the things that we have been talking about. And I think there's no other time than now to do exactly that. Let's take care of our youth. Let's take care of our small businesses. Let's take care of our own companies. And indeed, let's take care of our very beloved country.
Yes, some would say this is too late, though. And how do you come back from something like this? Because we know even prior to COVID, small businesses were just not surviving the economic lashing that we were taking. The unemployment rate was soaring. And most glaringly obvious was one of the things that South Africa has always had an issue with is inequality. You have the haves and the have-nots. And this has been a ticking time bomb for years and years and years. And it's almost in a way exploding right now. And, to come back from this is going to be very, very difficult. That inequality in South Africa, surely this is playing a major, major role.
Definitely, Leanne. Actually, when we did our report, our IRMSA report, one of the top 12 risks that we identified was exactly that, structural inequality. And we actually believe that, according to the World Bank, we actually are one of the economically unequal country. And indeed, the gap between the haves and the have-nots is widening bigger and bigger, and that is starting to see it's produce what we are seeing now. Maybe I'm too much of an optimist. I really believe that we've got examples of countries that have come out of the worst scenarios than we're even facing. So I really believe that if we still get together as the country, as everybody, citizens, organizations, the government, if we can all pull in together and have that very a strong leadership that from every aspect of our country, we will actually be able to come out of this. Yeah. Maybe I'm an optimist, but I'm also just judging from what has been happening in the world. Countries that come from the most disastrous environments, but they're able to pull back and bounce back and actually strive.
At the top of all of this is political leadership. And, you know, that perhaps we haven't really dwelled on too much, because you can have really good business leadership, but at this point in time, businesses are being burnt to the ground. And, you know, they may be employing masses of people, but those people don't have jobs anymore, and there's nothing business can do. Government, however, on the top of all of this, we have watched the government loot the state for I don't even know how many years now, and the amount of money that has gone could have enriched the entire population of South Africa over and over again. Schools could have been better, hospitals could have been better. I mean, we won't even talk to the could have been, but this is the result of, unfortunately, bad political leadership. So at the top of that all, you know, when you look at assessments of our situation in government now, where does that come into play?
Leanne, that is a very interesting one, and a very controversial one, if I can call it that way. My view, and that is what we also stand for, is that this, more than any time, this is the time where we have to have those very courageous conversations, those uncomfortable conversations. Let's call out bad behaviors and do something and act on those things. It's no longer the time of talking now. It's a time of acting. You know, I mean, if you look at what happens in the corporate, we're very quick to actually react and respond to any unethical behavior. Can we then plug that and then replicate it throughout the country, so that we are able to have the leaders that are really going to lead, to be able to have the managers that are going to manage, to be able to have everybody playing the role that they're actually supposed to be playing. And I think as citizens of the country, it is definitely our responsibility to be able to do this and start to put that much pressure to have ethical leadership from every sphere of the country. I'm not only talking from the government perspective, but I'm talking even in the corporates and actually even in our individual basis. So I really think now is the time. All of this, you correctly said, this has been the ticking bomb, and most of us have seen this coming, but we actually have not done. I don't want to say we haven't done much, because there's quite a lot of great things that we have done as the country. You know, there's a lot of great things that the communities have done, that the different organizations have done. But it is time for us now to actually really pull together, put aside all the differences and everything else, and then try to strive and make this country a better country for all of us who are the residents in it. Yeah.
Thanks, Thabile. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thabile Nyaba is president of the Institute of Risk Management South Africa, discussing IRMSA's business risk analysis of the looting and riots that are taking place in KwaZulu Natal and Gauteng.